Okay, so we're back. I wasn't going to record today, but I want to read more of Escape from Mr. Limoncello's Library. I told myself I wasn't going to read it without you. So we are on chapter 12. We're going to do 3 chapters for today. So at the end of chapter 11, they said, "Now then, who's ready for our first game?" They're in the library in the lockdown. Chapter 12. "Will everybody please line up behind that far desk in front of the children's room," said Dr. Zinchenko, gesturing towards one of the wooden tables in the outermost ring of the room. "How many of you are familiar with Mr. Lemoncello's classic board game, Hurry to the Top of the Heap?" 12 hands shot up. "Very good," said Dr. Zinchenko. Overhead, the Wonder Dome dissolved into a gigantic, curved heap box top. This will be a live, three-dimensional version of that game. Each of you will be asked a trivia question. If you're able to answer it correctly, you will roll the dice and advance the equivalent number of desks. When you return to the starting point, you will move into the next concentric circle of desks. When you complete that ring, you will move into the next, and so on. If one of you makes it all the way to the desk at the center, you will be declared the winner. "But we don't have any dice," said Yasmin Smith Snyder. "Yes, you do. See that smoky glass panel in the center of the desk? It is actually a touchscreen computer currently running Mr. Lemoncello's dice rolling app. Simply swipe and flick your fingers across the glass to toss and tumble the animated dice." Dr. Zinchenko placed a stack of red cards on her desk. She looked like the host of a TV game show. "Before we begin, are there any other questions?" Charles Chiltington raised his hand. "Yes, Mr. Chiltington?" "What will the winner win? After all, the prize is the most important part of any game." Kyle didn't totally agree, but he was too excited about playing the game to say anything. "Tonight's first prize," said Dr. Zinchenko, "is this golden key granting the winner access to Mr. Lemoncello's private and very posh bedroom suite up on the library's 3rd floor. Instead of spending the night on the floor in a sleeping bag, you will be relaxing in luxury with a feather bed, a 72-inch television screen, and a state-of-the-art gaming console." Okay, Kyle was definitely interested in this particular prize. Judging from the wide-open eyes and chorus of oohs and wows all around him, so was everybody else. Dr. Zinchenko flipped over the first question card. "What major league pitcher was the last to win at least 30 games in one season?" 6 players got it wrong before Kyle got it right. "Denny McLain." Correct. He swiped the glass panel, rolled a 10, and advanced 10 desks around the room. "What United States Navy ship was once captured by the North Koreans?" Miguel nailed that one. "The USS Pueblo." He flew 12 spaces around the room. "What did Apollo 8 accomplish that had never been done before?" Akemi, Andrew Peckelman, and Kayla Corson struck out on that one, but Charles Chiltington knew the answer. It was the first spacecraft to orbit the moon. Correct. Chiltington rolled a 5, landing him in last place. Kyle's next question was tougher. Who was famous for saying, "Book 'em, Dan-O"? That guy on Hawaii Five-0? Please be more specific. The one with the shiny hair. Jack Lord? That is correct. Let's see what he gets. Kyle breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness he and his dad sometimes watch reruns of old TV shows from the 1960s. But when he flicked the computerized dice, his luck hit a brick wall. He rolled snake eyes and moved up 2 measly desks. Meanwhile, Miguel went down with a question about Barbra Streisand. Carl wasn't exactly sure who she was, and Charles Chiltington surged ahead with the correct answer about the Beatles, "Hey Jude," and a double sixes roll. As the game went on, Kyle and Chiltington, the only players still standing, kept answering correctly and moving around the room until they were both seated at a desk in the innermost ring, only 6 spaces away from Dr. Zinchenko's desk and victory. Kyle was seriously glad he and his mom had played so many games of Trivial Pursuit with the original, extremely old cards. "Kyle, here's your next question. What song in the movie Dr. Dolittle won an Academy Award?" Kyle squinted. He had that movie. An old VHS cassette tape that his mom had bought at a garage sale. Too bad they didn't have a VCR to watch it on. But even though he'd never seen the movie, he had read the front and back of the box a couple times. Talk to the animals? Correct. He started breathing again. Roll the dice, please, Mr. Keeley. Kyle did. Another pair of ones. He moved up 2 spaces. Now he's only 4 desks away from winning. Mr. Chiltington, here's your next question. Who was elected president in 1968? I believe that was Richard Milhouse Nixon. You are also correct. Chiltington didn't wait for the librarian to tell him to roll the dice. He flicked his fingers across the glass pad. Yes, double sixes again. He moved around the last ring of desks, tapping their tops, counting them off, even though everybody knew his 12 was more than good enough to carry him to the finish line. Congratulations, Mr. Chiltington, Dr. Zinchenko said as she handed him the key to the private suite. You are this evening's first winner. Thank you, Dr. Zinchenko. I am truly and sincerely honored. Congratulations, Charles, said Kyle. Way to win. Get used to it, Keeley, he answered in a voice only the other kids could hear. I'm a Chiltington. We never lose. Chapter 13. What happened next was extremely cool. A holographic image of a second librarian appeared beside Dr. Zinchenko at the center desk. She looked a little like Princess Leia being beamed out of R2-D2 in Star Wars, except she had an old-fashioned bubble-top hairdo, cat's eye glasses, and a tweed jacket with a patch on the elbows. Here to present our official library lock-in rules, said Dr. Zinchenko, is Mrs. Gail Tobin, head librarian of the Alexandriaville Public Library back in the 1960s, when Mr. Lemoncello was your age. Overhead, the Wonder Dome had shifted back to its 10 Dewey Decimal displays. How old is she? Asked Sean Keegan. She'd be 110 if she were still alive. But she's dead and working here? Let's just say her spirit lives on in the hologram. Mr. Tobin's the one who helped Mr. Lemoncello so much, Kyle whispered to Akemi, when he was a kid. I know. Her hair looks like a beehive. Kyle shrugged. From what I've seen on TV, the 1960s were generally weird. Welcome, children, to the Library of the Future, said the flickering projection. Dr. Zinchenko will now pass out the Lemoncello Library floor plans, your map and guides to all that this extraordinary building has to offer. Your new library cards will grant you access to all the rooms except the Master Control Center, the red door you passed on your way in, and, of course, Mr. Lemoncello's private suite on the 3rd floor. Charles Chiltington dangled his gold key in front of his face. I believe you need this to enter that. Mrs. Tobin ignored him. She was a hologram. That made it much easier. Security personnel are on duty 24 hours a day, she continued. During your stay, all of your actions will be recorded by video cameras as outlined in the consent agreements you and your parents signed earlier. Are we going to be on a reality TV show? Asked Haley, smiling up at the tiny camera with the blinking red light. It is a distinct possibility, said Dr. Zinchenko. I like television, said the ghostly image of Mrs. Tobin. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In is my favorite program. Returning to the rules, the use of personal electronic devices is strictly prohibited at all times during the lock-in. The security guard, Clarence, and a guy who looked like his identical twin brother entered the rotunda, each of them carrying an aluminum attaché case. Kindly deposit all cell phones, iPods, iPads, in the receptacles provided by our security guards, Clarence and Clement. Your devices will be safely stored for the duration of your stay and will be returned to you at the conclusion of our activities. Also, you may use the desktop pad computers in this room to comb through our card catalog and conduct internet research. However, these devices cannot send or receive email or text messages, whatever those might be. Remember, I retired in 1973. We still used carbon paper. And now, Dr. Zinchenko will walk you through the floor plan. Everybody unfolded their map pamphlets. As you can see, said Dr. Zinchenko, fiction titles are located here in the reading room. The children's enrichment room, with soundproof walls, is over there. 2 fully equipped community meeting rooms, as well as the Book Nook Cafe behind those windows where the curtains are drawn, are also located on this floor. Upstairs, on 2, you will find 10 numbered doors, each leading into a chamber filled with books, information, and, well, displays related to the corresponding Dewey Decimal category. Kyle raised his hand. Yes? Where's the Electronic Learning Center? Dr. Zinchenko grinned. Upstairs, on the 3rd floor, where you will also find the boardroom, the Art and Artifacts room, the IMAX theater, the Lemoncello Abelia room, the "Can we go upstairs and play?" asked Bridget Wadge. "I want to try out the space shuttle simulator." "I want to know how to drive a car," said Sean Kagan. "A race car." "I want to conquer the world with Alexander the Great," said Yasmin Smith Snyder. Apparently, everybody was doing what Kyle had already done, checking out the available educational gameware listed on the back of the floor plan. "Early access to Electronic Learning Center will be tonight's second prize," said Dr. Zinchenko. "To win it, you must use the library's resources to find dessert, which we have hidden somewhere in the building. Whoever does the research and locates the goodies first will also be the first one allowed into the Electronic Learning Center. So use your wits and use your library. Go find dessert." Everybody raced around the room and sat down at separate desks to start tapping on the glass computer pads. Well, everybody except Sierra Russell, she spent like 2 seconds swiping her fingers across the screen, wrote something down with a stubbly pencil on a slip of paper, then wandered off to inspect the 3-story tall curved bookcases lining the walls at the back half of the rotunda. Kyle watched as she stepped onto a slightly elevated platform with handles like you'd see on your grandmother's walker. It even had a basket attached to the front. "Dr. Zinchenko?" "Yes, Miss Russell." "Is this safe? Because the book I want is all the way up at the top." "Yes, just make sure your feet are securely locked in." Sierra wiggled her leg. Kyle heard a metallic snap. "It's like a ski boot," said Sierra. "That's right. Now use the keypad to tell the hover ladder to the call number for your book you're interested in and hang on tight." Sierra consulted the slip of paper and tapped some keys. "The bottom of the platform you are standing on is a magnet," said Dr. Zinchenko. "There are ribbons of electromagnetic material lining in the lining of the bookcases. The strength of those magnets will be modulated by our maglev computer based on the call number you input." 2 seconds later, Sierra was floating in the air, drifting up and to the left. It was absolutely awesome. "The hover ladder must use advanced magnetic levitation technology," said Miguel, seated at the desk to Kyle's right, "just like the maglev bullet trains in Japan." "Cool," mumbled Kyle, and for the first time in his life, Kyle Keeley wanted to check out a library book more than anything in the world. All right, chapter 14. "How about we work together?" said Akimi when she sat down at Kyle's table. "Hmm?" Kyle couldn't take his eyes off Sierra Russell. She had drifted up about 25 feet and was leaning against the railings of her platform, completely lost in a new book. "Hello? Earth to Kyle. Do you want somebody else to get first dibs on the Electronic Learning Center? No? Then focus. Okay, so how do we use our wits and the library to find dessert?" Akimi nodded toward Miguel, whose fingers were dancing across the screen of his desktop's tablet computer. "I think he's doing a search in the card catalog," whispered Akimi. "Why?" "It's how you find stuff in a library, Kyle." "I know that, but we're not looking for books about dessert. We need to find actual food." Andrew Peckelman stood up from his desk and sprinted up a wrought iron spiral staircase leading to the second floor. 2 seconds later, Charles Chiltington was sprinting up the staircase behind him. All the other players soon followed. Everybody was headed to the second floor and the Dewey Decimal Rooms. Miguel popped up from his desk and made a mad dash for the nearest staircase. "It's got to be up in the 600s, you guys," he called out to Kyle and Akimi. "Thanks," said Kyle, but he still didn't budge from his seat. "I guess the 600s is the Dewey Decimal category where you find books about desserts," said Akimi. "Maybe we should—" "Wait a second," said Kyle. Kyle, in case you haven't noticed, you, me, and glider girl Sierra are the only ones still on this floor. And Sierra isn't really on the floor because she's floating." "Hold on, Akimi, I have an idea." Kyle pulled out his floor plan. "Dessert is probably hiding in plain sight, just like the bonus codes in Squirrel Squad. Follow me." "Where to?" "The Book Nook Cafe. The one room in the library where, according to what Dr. Zinchenko told us back at the hotel, food and drinks are actually allowed." They strolled into the cozy cafe. "Woo-hoo!" shouted Akimi. The walls were decorated with shelves of cookbooks, but several tables were loaded down with trays of cookies, cakes, ice cream, and fruit. "That's why the curtains were closed behind the windows into the rotunda," said Akimi, "so we couldn't see all this food. Way to go, Kyle." Kyle did his best imitation of Charles Chiltington. "I'm Akimi. We never lose. Except, of course, when we don't win." After everyone had dessert, Kyle and Akimi were the first ones allowed to enter the Electronic Learning Center. Kyle flew the space shuttle, making an excellent landing on Mars before crashing into one of Saturn's moons. Akimi rode a horse with Paul Revere. Then Kyle learned how to drive a stick-shift stock car on the Talladega racetrack, while Akimi climbed into a tiny submarine to swim with sharks, dolphins, and sea turtles, all of which were projected on the glass walls of her undersea simulator. All the educational video games had 3D visuals, digital surround sound, and something new that Lemoncello was developing for his video games: smell-o-vision. When you sacked Rome with the Visigoths, you could smell the smoky scent of the burning city, as well as the barbarians' BO. After an hour, Dr. Zinchenko ushered everybody else into the Electronic Learning Center. They'd been watching George Washington debate George W. Bush. Both were audio animatronic dummies in the town square at the center of the 900s room. At 10 p.m., they all tromped into the IMAX theater, also on the third floor, to see a jukebox concert. 3D images of the world's best musicians, both living and dead, performed their hits live. The best part was Mozart jamming with Metallica. Finally, around 3 in the morning, Clarence and his twin brother, Clement, came to escort the kids to their sleeping quarters. The boys would roll out their sleeping bags in the children's room, just off the rotunda. The girls would be upstairs on the third floor in the boardroom. Charles Chiltington would be luxuriating all alone in Mr. Lemoncello's private suite. Exhausted from the excitement of the day and crashing after eating way too much sugar, Kyle slept like a baby. He only woke up because he heard music. Loud, blaring music. The theme song from that boxing movie, Rocky, his brother Mike's favorite. "What's that?" he mumbled, crawling out of his sleeping bag. Kyle glanced at his watch. It was 11 a.m. He figured the library lock-in was officially over, and this was the group's wake-up call. The music kept blaring. "This is how they wake up astronauts," groaned Miguel. "Turn it off," moaned Andrew Peckelman. Kyle slipped on his jeans and sneakers and staggered into the giant reading room. "Dr. Zinchenko?" His voice echoed off the dome. No answer. "Clarence? Clement?" Nothing. The Rocky music got louder. Akimi leaned in from the third-floor balcony. "What's going on down there?" "I think they're trying to wake up astronauts," said Kyle. "On the moon." He made his way to the front door and reached for the handle. It wouldn't budge. He jiggled it. Nothing. He jiggled it harder. Still nothing. Kyle realized that the library lock-in might be over, but they were still locked in the library. All right, that's the end of chapter 14, and that's all for today.